Alright, so today let's talk about the underdogs of gaming. Creative, fun, and often more memorable than the big budget stuff. These are not your massive AAA blockbusters, but trust me, they punch way above their weight. Here are 30 of the best AA games you can play right now. Ghostrunner 2 is basically the definition of flow state in gaming. You're wall running, slicing, dashing, and pulling off moves that make you feel like a Cyberpunk Ninja on 10 cups of coffee. It's fast, it's stylish, and when you die, which you will a lot, it's instant respawn, so there's no time to rage quit, only time to try again, and pretend you always knew what you were doing. The combat is razor sharp, the movement is buttery smooth, and when you chain everything together, it feels like you're the coolest person alive until the game humbles you 5 seconds later.
A warehouse?
What do you think is inside?
Loads of stuff, most likely. These warehouses were built to store the equipment used for Dharma's construction. Whatever couldn't be repurposed is probably still rusting in there.
Banisher's Ghosts of New Eden is one of those games that sneaks up on you. On the surface, you've got solid combat, a moody world, and a vibe that just feels cinematic. But what really sets it apart is how much weight every choice feels like it carries. The action itself is fun, sure, but it's the atmosphere that pulls you in. Dark, emotional, and heavy with this almost gothic beauty. It doesn't try to be a massive blockbuster, but it ends up hitting harder than most. It's a perfect example of how AA games sometimes outshine AAA by focusing on depth instead of spectacle. Alters is one of those games where the more you think about it, the more it messes with your head. Imagine facing different versions of yourself, each shaped by choices you didn't make, and then having to deal with that chaos. The gameplay itself is a blend of clever mechanics and narrative weight that constantly keeps you questioning what's right, but without drowning you in endless exposition. It's sharp, it's unique, and it feels like a perfect showcase of what AAA games do best. Give you a big concept without the bloated filler. Clair Obscure. Expedition 33 stands out because it doesn't look or play like anything else in the space. The turn-based combat feels fresh thanks to its creative mechanics, but honestly, it's the visuals that really grab you. It's like fighting your way through a painting where every detail looks handcrafted to make you stop and admire before you remember you're supposed to be in the middle of a battle. The game has this artistic confidence that screams originality, and it proves that you don't need photorealism to blow people away. You just need style, and this game has it in spades.
A storm is coming.
Evil West is just unapologetically fun. It takes the Wild West setting, throws in some vampires, monsters, and a pair of electric-charged fists, and says, yeah, this makes sense. The combat is heavy, crunchy, and packed with combos that make every fight feel like an action movie brawl. It doesn't waste your time with overcomplication. It just hands you some wild tools and says, go nuts. And honestly, that's why it works so well. It knows exactly what it is, a power fantasy in cowboy boots, and if that doesn't sound like fun, I don't know what does. Gylt is one of those games that reminds you how effective simplicity can be in horror. It doesn't go for over-the-top gore or cheap jump scares. It's more about that creeping unease that sticks with you when you're done playing. The art style might look a bit soft on the surface, but don't be fooled. It manages to dig under your skin with its atmosphere and tension. It's slower, more deliberate, and honestly, sometimes that's scarier than a monster charging at you. Gylt feels like a creepy bedtime story that you probably shouldn't have read before trying to sleep. Dynasty Warriors Origins is basically the definition of power fantasy. There's just something ridiculously satisfying about charging into a battlefield and sending dozens of enemies flying like bowling pins. It's chaotic, over the top, and it never pretends to be anything else. And that's why it works. You're not here for nuanced duels or tactical combat. You're here to feel like a one-man wrecking crew. And honestly, there's something kind of therapeutic about mashing through waves of soldiers while feeling completely unstoppable. Sometimes you don't need subtlety, you just need pure chaos.
It's your turn.
Hellblade Senua's Sacrifice isn't your typical action game, and that's exactly why it's so special. The way it pulls you into its atmosphere is unreal. The headphones on, and suddenly you're in another world. The combat is minimalistic but weighty, making every swing feel important, while the visuals and sound design wrap around you like a storm. It's less about throwing dozens of mechanics at you and more about making you feel connected to the character's struggle. Honestly, it's one of those games that proves less can absolutely be more when it's done with this much care.
Just end it now. Near the end.
It Takes Two is the gold standard for co-op gaming. Every level reinvents itself with new mechanics, so you're never stuck doing the same thing twice. It constantly surprises you with creativity, like the developers had a no boring ideas policy in place. And here's the thing, it's not just a game you can play with someone else, it's a game that's built to be experienced with someone else. Whether you're playing with a friend, a sibling, or your partner, it's pure co-op magic, and it might even test your relationship skills more than you expect.
Again off the book. Let's get to Rose.
Oh no no.
Lies of P takes the brutal, methodical combat of a Souls-like and dresses it up with a gorgeous Gothic aesthetic that feels both familiar and fresh. The combat is tight, the bosses hit like trucks, and the difficulty curve will definitely test your patience, but that's part of the appeal. What makes it stand out, though, is the style, the world design, the animations, the sheer elegance of it all. It takes inspiration from the giants in the genre, but manages to carve out its own identity, and that's why it's earned so much respect so quickly. Life is Strange is one of those games that just nails the vibe. It's less about how many buttons you mash and more about the choices you make, and the way the game makes those choices stick with you is what sets it apart. It's got this balance of laid-back exploration mixed with big emotional weight, and the pacing lets you really soak it all in. The style, the atmosphere, the music, it all blends together into something that feels personal, almost nostalgic. It's the kind of game you don't just play, you actually feel your way through.
Come on, put that thing down!
Ever tell me what to do. I'm so sick of people trying to control me.
You are going to get in hella more trouble for this than drugs.
Nobody would ever even miss your punk ass, would they?
Get that gun away!
Nine Sols is a perfect example of how 2D games can still blow your mind. The combat is fast, challenging, and loaded with precision, but it never feels unfair. It's more like the game demanding you rise to its level. Add in a world that's dripping with personality and some absolutely gorgeous visuals, and you've got something that feels fresh despite pulling from familiar mechanics. What makes it stand out is how tight everything feels. Every slash, every dodge, every parry, it's stylish, it's tough, and it's one of those games that rewards obsession. Still Wakes the Deep is less about throwing things at you and more about creating the suffocating edge of your seat tension. It thrives on atmosphere, using sound and environment to do the heavy lifting instead of leaning on constant action. That slower pace works because it gives you time to really sink into the mood. You're not rushing, you're soaking in every uneasy detail. It's unsettling in a way that sticks with you, proving that sometimes the scariest thing isn't what jumps out at you, but what your imagination fills in when nothing's happening.
Halfway out of here. One more. One more.
The first Berzerker, Khazan, feels like a love letter to stylish action fans. It's all about high-energy combat with flashy combos and big, exaggerated moves that make you feel like an absolute powerhouse. The pacing is quick, the animations are slick, and there's this confident flair to how everything is presented. It doesn't reinvent the wheel, but it doesn't need to. It's here to deliver pure, over-the-top action that just feels good in your hands. If you're into games that reward aggressive play and make you feel like a boss, this one's right up your alley. Outer Wilds is proof that gameplay doesn't need to be loud or intense to be unforgettable. It's about exploration, curiosity, and giving you the freedom to piece things together on your own. What's amazing is how it balances that sense of wonder with genuine challenge. You're constantly learning, constantly discovering, and it feels rewarding because it never hands you the answers. It's meditative, it's clever, and it's the kind of game that makes you sit back afterward and just think about what you experienced. Few games manage to spark that kind of reflection. Atlas Fallen is one of those games that just screams style. The combat is flashy, the movement feels fluid, and there's something oddly satisfying about gliding across vast sandy landscapes like you're surfing through a desert storm. It doesn't try to weigh you down with overly complex systems. Instead, it keeps the focus on making you feel powerful and keeping the action exciting. It's the kind of game that thrives on spectacle, but in a way that's fun rather than bloated. If you're looking for a AA game that knows how to put on a show, this one definitely delivers. Darksiders is basically comfort food for action-adventure fans. It blends elements from different genres, puzzles, exploration, heavy combat, and packages them into something that feels both familiar and unique. It's not trying to be hyper-realistic or overly complicated, it just nails that sweet spot of fun, satisfying gameplay that keeps you hooked. What makes it shine is that balance. It gives you enough variety that you're never stuck doing the same thing for too long. It's one of those series you can always come back to and know you're gonna have a good time. Disco Elysium is proof that writing can be just as engaging as flashy gameplay. It's less about reflexes and more about how you think, react, and role-play your way through conversations. What really makes it stand out is how layered everything is. No two players will ever really have the exact same experience because the choices branch so wildly. It's smart, witty, and sometimes brutally honest in how it reflects back on you. It might not be everyone's cup of tea, but for those who love dialogue-driven depth, it's one of the sharpest games ever made.
See that ladder there? It's probably another way into the industrial harbor, no? A secret path the local kids use.
Kena Bridge of Spirits is a gem that's as beautiful to look at as it is to play. The visuals honestly feel like you're inside a Pixar film, but it's not just eye candy. The combat has a nice balance of accessibility and challenge that keeps it engaging. Add in the charm of the little creatures that help you out, and the whole experience feels warm, inviting, and polished. It's not trying to reinvent the wheel, but it has that magic combination of fun gameplay, gorgeous visuals, and heart that makes it incredibly easy to recommend. Kingdom Come Deliverance goes all in on realism, and that's exactly what sets it apart. The combat is deliberate and unforgiving, the systems are detailed, and it demands you pay attention in a way most RPGs don't. It's less about quick wins and more about immersing yourself in the grind of medieval life, and weirdly enough, that's what makes it so satisfying. When you finally master its mechanics, it feels earned. It's not polished like a AAA blockbuster, but it has a raw authenticity that makes it stand out in the best possible way.
Ma a poco raiuț! Ma a poco raiuț! Mi van? Begyulladtál?
Ori and the Will of the Wisps is basically platforming perfection wrapped in stunning visuals and one of the most beautiful soundtracks you'll ever hear. The movement is fluid, the controls are tight, and every new ability feels like it was designed to make you smile the moment you use it. It's challenging without being punishing, emotional without being heavy-handed, and honestly, it's the kind of game that makes you stop and appreciate how games can be pure art. If you want something equal parts heartwarming and skill testing, this one delivers both flawlessly. Pacific Drive is one of those games that sounds strange on paper, but totally works once you play it. The whole survival driving idea makes your car feel like an actual lifeline, and that dynamic creates tension you don't really get elsewhere. You're not just exploring dangerous zones, you're building this weird, almost personal bond with your vehicle. It's quirky, it's tense, and it's got that fresh, experimental vibe that only AAA games dare to pull off. If you're tired of the same formulaic survival games, this one feels like a real breath of fresh air. Remnant II takes the Souls-like formula and flips it into something totally its own with guns, procedural elements, and some of the coolest co-op design around. The shooting feels tight, the builds are deep, and the variety in environments keeps you constantly surprised. What makes it special is that it manages to balance that difficulty and unpredictability without ever feeling unfair. It rewards teamwork and smart play, but still lets you solo if that's your thing. It's chaotic, rewarding, and a reminder that AA games can absolutely stand toe-to-toe with AAA action titles. Sifu is an absolute love letter to martial arts fans. The combat is precise, punishing, and deeply rewarding when you finally nail the timing. The aging mechanic adds a clever twist that forces you to adapt and rethink your approach every time you mess up. It's one of those games that doesn't care if you're frustrated, it just keeps pushing you to get better, and when you finally do, the payoff is incredible. It's tough love in video game form, but if you stick with it, the result is one of the most satisfying action systems out there.
He can't keep up!
Soma is psychological horror at its finest. Because it doesn't rely on jump scares or cheap tricks, it gets under your skin with atmosphere and big existential questions. The pacing is slow and deliberate, letting the dread build naturally until you're completely absorbed in its world. What makes it hit so hard is how it blends sci-fi elements with genuine human fear, making you think long after you've put the controller down. It's eerie, thought-provoking, and the kind of game that lingers with you. Proof that horror can be powerful without being flashy. South of Midnight immediately grabs attention with its distinct art style and vibe that feels completely different from anything else out there. It leans into that Southern Gothic charm, with a mix of mystery and surrealism, and the presentation is just dripping with originality. What really stands out is how confident it feels. It's not trying to copy anyone, it's carving its own lane. That's exactly what AA games do best. Take risks, experiment with aesthetics, and deliver something fresh. It's quirky, it's stylish, and it's the kind of title that sticks in your mind.
It's Two-Toed Tom or Hugging Molly. Each of these larger-than-life creatures is inspired by Southern folklore and lead to climactic battles.
We got a long journey ahead.
The Surge 2 takes the Souls-like formula and straps it into a gritty sci-fi setting that's all about precision and strategy. The limb targeting system is genius, making every fight feel tactical and rewarding instead of just another button-mashing brawl. The combat hits hard, the customization runs deep, and the world feels oppressive in a way that fits perfectly with its theme. It's definitely tough, but it never feels cheap. When you lose, you know it's on you. It's the kind of AA game that shows you can push genre boundaries without losing what makes it fun. Vampyr is moody, atmospheric, and surprisingly thoughtful in how it blends action with decision-making. The combat gives you options to play around with, but the real hook is how the game makes you weigh power against morality. It's not about perfect polish, it's about creating an experience that feels raw, messy, and immersive. That's part of its charm. It has that rough-edged creativity AA games are known for, and it pulls you in with its vibe and tone. If you're into darker, slower burn experiences, this one hits just right. Yakuza 0 is pure entertainment in video game form. 1 minute you're smashing thugs in stylish combat, the next you're caught up in some of the most ridiculous and hilarious side activities ever put in a game. It's serious when it needs to be, but it also doesn't take itself too seriously, and that balance is what makes it shine. The combat is fun, the characters are larger than life, and the sheer variety of things to do keeps it endlessly engaging. It's one of those games that proves being AA doesn't mean being small. It can feel absolutely massive. A Plague Tale: Innocence is the definition of a sleeper hit that grew into a modern classic. It's atmospheric, gorgeous, and tightly crafted, with gameplay that balances tension and strategy beautifully. What makes it so special is how it nails that emotional weight without ever feeling forced. The pacing is sharp, the presentation is stunning for a AA title, and it never overstays its welcome. It's one of those games you finish and immediately think, yeah, that's why I play stuff outside the AAA bubble. Easily one of the best examples of what AA gaming can achieve.
I should be able to knock it down.
They've eaten them all.
Try not to look. We can't do anything for them now.
And there you have it. 30 of the best AA games you can play right now. So which one of these AA gems is your favorite? Or maybe there's one I missed that deserves the spotlight. Drop your thoughts in the comments. I always love hearing your picks. If you enjoyed the video, smash that like button, subscribe for more gaming content, and I'll catch you in the next one.